Merlin Valdez is a software and solutions engineer and founder of VoteFee.org. VoteFee.org is a Twitter or Blue Sky-like user experience that allows constituents to interact with their respective U.S. representative in Congress by sharing their opinion on policies up for vote in the legislative agenda. Check out the site, links in the description box below.
We're here with Merlin Valdez, who is presenting his project VoteFeed here at the NYC Public Interest Technology Pop-Up. Merlin, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, so tell us about your project you were presenting here for Open Data Week.
So VoteFeed actually comes out of a frustration that I personally have with myself. Anytime I showed up at the voting booth and I was supposed to elect a congressperson whose policies I didn't know how they voted on, whom I didn't know how I align with them politically. And so I wanted to figure out what is a way in which I can, instead of using social media, create certain type of feed in which I can look at how my representative voted every single day and comment, like or dislike or approve or disapprove of their votes, and really kind of like get engaged every single day instead of being online on Twitter or Blue Sky.
Can you show us a little bit about how this platform works?
Sure. So once you're in VoteFeed, and what I really like about this is that the way we think about who gets to be on VoteFeed is with this concept of constituency, right? So like, it's not that you are a registered voter. It's not that you know that you voted in the past. Is whether or not you live in the congressional district of the person that represents that district. And this is a place where you actually get to still have a say whether or not you're voting. When you come here to your feed, you're going to be presented with who your representative is. Here I can see that the policy alignment level is 0, and that's because we haven't voted on anything just yet. When I look at the latest vote, I see this long summary. I can use AI to kind of like summarize that for me, simplify it a little bit more. And this particular vote says it gives DHS, or the Department of Homeland Security, money for the rest of the 26 budget year, and it ends the partial shutdown that started on February 14th. I'm sure you've heard of this already. Personally, I believe that my representative should have voted no on this, and luckily, Representative Espaillat also voted no on this. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit agree with that, and I'm gonna see that this alignment is actually growing. There are certain votes out there that I've already voted on against him, so that's why. And every single time I read through specific bills, I can then really like name whether or not I agree with Representative Espaillat's votes and really understand how much I actually align with them. I've been extremely surprised actually with my own representative, and every time I talk to my friends that use this, they've been surprised that in many cases they align. This is a test count, but in my personal account, I actually align with Representative Espaillat 88%, so he's likely to have my vote. But there are other cases in which friends who live in districts of who the representative they didn't vote for, they find themselves agreeing with them 20%, 10% of the time, and this is what's getting them to actually be active, and then really, put in their commentary, show and talk about those policies in a way that they actually feel knowledgeable and feel that they can have action.
Is the feed chronological in terms of the most recent vote to oldest votes?
That's right. This actually, if you've been listening to the news, right, this is the point of contention of the whole shutdown right now, right? So yesterday there was a roll call on actually allowing for parts of the Department of Homeland Security to be funded, and without actually funding ICE, which was a point of contention for most Democrats. And so this was based on yesterday's vote. Still, my representative actually voted no. He actually just doesn't want to fund the DHS, which I think is aligned with many of the people that represent them. So yes, the feed is actually every single day. You're going to see what the last roll call was. You have to know that like votes and don't actually happen every single day. And many votes for different bills happen within one single roll call. So you can actually see multiple votes every single day as they populate inside of the feed. The next thing that's coming very soon, hopefully this weekend, is a filter so that you can see which policy area you really care about. For example, I care a whole lot about immigration, so I definitely want to go through Adriano Espaillat's record on immigration on the whole last 2 sessions, because that actually is central to my alignment with this representative. And I want to be adding continuous features like that because the cool thing about this is that, yes, there's so much open data that's numerical out there, but also there's voting record open data, there's legislative open data out there that we want to leverage to serve to the public in ways that are consumable.
Can you talk a little bit about how you're populating the feed with votes? Like, how are you sourcing that from?
Yeah, oh my God. Y'all, I love Congress API. Thank you, God, for Congress API. I once found it by looking at, because one time I was just spending time at congress.gov, I was like, where are they getting this data from? And is it is it actually open for me to actually call it out with an API? And so as soon as I found it, that was my biggest piece of learning in terms of backend development, like how to call this API, how to structure the data, how to connect it and source it into a database. And so if you want to continue to build tools like this, you can build so many different things leveraging the Congress API data. Next, actually, right? So like here, you can only see your congressperson in the U.S. House of Representatives. But next, I want to add Senate, and then I actually want to add the state legislature of New York and the city council. And those are different APIs. Those are the legislar APIs that we get to use for that. But my goal is to actually leverage what's out there. And one of the big questions that I have moving forward is that, like, if this project was international, like if I wanted to do this for my country, for my home country, the Dominican Republic, I know that they only serve their voting call or their voting rolls journals and PDFs. So there's no API for that. So what we want to build is data ingestion pipelines that would allow for you to still actually pass this and turn this into a feed. The cool thing is that the feed data is already structured, right? So like there's already a shape that we already gave in the database for this data. So what we can now leverage AI to actually shape other countries' legislature and other votes into this particular style as well.
All the different state legislatures
Yes.
in the United States.
Oof.
Is there a lot of variety in terms of the kinds of ways that they're tabulating and kind of making the information available?
Yeah, so I've learned that there's actually a universal, I don't know the name of it right now, but I know that there's a universal XML protocol that they are using. So in the United States, there is certain level of standardization for this, but not all countries have this, right? So like it's also thinking about, I think more deeper into like city councils or like, you know, even when you think about a school district, right, that also handles votes as well. If we were to have that level of representational data in a feed like this, how do we actually then ingest that data and how does it look like? How does it vary? I think this is where probably AI is going to be a really good helper. I've always been somewhat wary of AI in general of its use, but I think it's a really good thing to use it with, is to like actually leverage and reconstruct data and then serve that to folks for them to consume in a way that allows for them to be more actionable.
How can people support your project?
Just go to votefeed.org, sign up, and use it. Use it. I think that's the best way to support it right now. It is a self-funded project. It's completely open source, so you can also fork it. There's a GitHub out there, and I can also share that with y'all. But the goal is for us to be more active, and for you to actually engage, for you to have a personal relationship with a policy that actually represent you, right? And you want to actually understand that. You don't want to be at the dinner table just kind of like talking about politics for politics' sake. And I want to get rid of that. I want us to move towards deeply having knowledge on the policies that we elected our representatives to vote on, and they should be aligned. They should be as aligned as we decide them to be.